Hi everyone, I'm Dave from the Polypad team, and in this tutorial video, I'm going to show you how to use the authoring features inside of Polypad. So here I am at teacher.desmos.com using my free account in Desmos Classroom, and I want to show you how to use Polypad inside a custom activity. So on the left, I'm going to click on Custom Activities. Here are other custom activities I've made in this account. For now, I want to create a new activity, so I'll click on that in the upper right. I'll call this Building in Polypad and create the activity. Here is the first screen of this activity. All of the components inside of Desmos Classroom that I could add to the screen, a table, a graph, etc. But I want to add a polypad, so I find that under the full screen section. Here's polypad. I'm going to click this, and it adds polypad to this first screen. This is a fully open, blank starting polypad. All of the features, actions are turned on here. So you can see I could go to polygons and shapes, maybe add a hexagon and a square and an octagon. And if I go to the preview mode to see how this will look as a student, I'll zoom in a little bit. You can see a number of features are available to students here. I could cut this, I could rotate this, I can use the pen tool, I can find other tiles to add to the canvas, I could find a number frame, and I could fill this, and so on. But there's some activities where we don't want all of these features, all of these actions available for students, nor do we want all these tiles available. So I'm going to show you in this video how to customize all of these so you can create a really specific activity for students. I'm going to leave this activity for a moment just to show you an example. Let me go to the home screen at teacher.desmos.com. And I'm going to open the K5 lessons and activities. I'll put this link in the comments of the video in case it doesn't appear right at the top of you on your account under featured collections. I'm going to open this, and I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom, past some digital lessons and math routines to the bite-sized math moments. And I'm going to open the grade 2 one called Using Number Bars to Balance the Scale. This is an activity that is made with Polypad. I'm going to open screen 3 here. And you can see it might sort of look and feel like Polypad to some degree, but there is no menu of tiles available on the left. When I click on these dice, no actions appear. I can click and drag to select all these dice, but I can't move them. And I have this roll button. When I click this button, the dice roll. And the activity that you can read more about in the description is to balance the scale, add bars on the left to make the two sides equal. So I see a 9 here, so I can click and drag to bring this 9 over, and you can see it pulls off a copy of that number bar. So on this 9, no actions appear, but on this 9 that I made a copy of, I can delete that one. That 9 I can't delete. I'm going to show us how to do that in authoring mode. So let's see if I can balance this. 5 and 4 is 9, and 1. Oh, there's a 9, and then let's see, we have 4 and 1 is 5, plus another 9, it seems like. I could also use the C button on my keyboard to make a copy, and there I balanced the scale. Awesome. Now I could delete these. Here again, all of these tiles, I can't delete them. I can drag off a copy and then hit delete on my keyboard. I can make a copy with the C button, but again, those are locked in place, and then I can roll it again. At the bottom here, all I have is a pen tool and an eraser. I've turned off the ability to change the color. I've turned off text boxes. So this is what I want to show you in this video, how to build a polypad like this where you've really customized and controlled what's available to students. So let me close this one. I'm going to go back to home here and go to my custom activities and open the one that I started building. So let me go to edit draft. I'm going to go to a new screen, add a polypad again, and start building. So I want to start with the balance scale. So I'm going to go to algebra and find the balance scale and add this onto the canvas. Okay, now when I when I click on the balance scale, I have this like, a circular handle that I can click and drag to change the size of the balance scale. And you can see in the action bar, the only thing that I could do is copy and delete the balance scale. And if I go to preview mode, a student is going to see exactly what I see on the screen here. I'm going to preview mode, but here, this is the exact same thing that a student is going to see. The authoring features come in the settings tab, which is only available to teachers in teacher.desmos.com. If I go to preview, you can see a student doesn't have access to that tab that has the gear on it. So let me close this, and I'm going to go to the gear. And you can see there's a toggle here where I can turn on authoring mode. So I'm going to turn this on. And notice that I get all of these toggles on the left and these checkboxes on the bottom. So here's where I can make changes to the canvas as a whole. So in that activity, for example, I turned off the ability to change the color or upload an image or do the equation editor or add a text box or do any geometric constructions. So I'm going to turn those off. And then to get those changes to save, I'm going to turn off the authoring mode toggle, and you can see now that that is saved at the bottom. So I could go to preview mode again to see it, or I could just turn off authoring mode to see what those changes look like. Let me turn this back on. And there's a few other toggles here. This first toggle controls whether students have access to the tile sidebar. In that activity with dice, I don't want them to, so I'm going to turn that off. You can see I'm still in authoring mode, so I have access to all the tiles, which I'm going to need in a moment when I add some to the canvas. But when I leave authoring mode, that goes away. And if I see it as a student, all we have is this balance scale, not much to do yet. So I'll go back here into authoring mode. I could think about all of these other toggles, but I want to get to some other features in authoring mode. When I click on the balance scale, notice in authoring mode, there is an additional menu of options that appear. So I just want to highlight this again. Outside of authoring mode, all you can do is copy and delete. But when I go into authoring mode, there is a more option in the action bar. And when I open this, I see a range. I see two categories of options that appear. There's an authoring category where I could define the X and Y position of the balance scale on the canvas. There's a toggle to show the handle or not. I don't want students to see the handle to change the size of the balance scale, so I'm going to turn off this toggle. Notice when I turn it off, though, I still see the handle because I'm in authoring mode. So an author can use the handle to make a change into the size of the balance scale, but I've turned it off here. So when I leave authoring mode, that handle is going to go away. So I leave authoring mode now, and you can see when I click on the balance scale, that's gone. The other thing I want to do in that activity with the dice, students don't need to click on the balance scale. In fact, I don't want them to click on the balance scale and hit delete by accident. I just want that locked in place. So another option in the dropdown with the authoring tools is changing the interactivity of a tile. Normally, you can click, you can drag, you can move it. Locked is what I want to do with the balance scale. I want this totally locked. So students can't do anything with the balance scale. They can't click it. They can't select it. They can't do anything. It's just locked. So I'm going to make this locked. Again, I'm in authoring mode, so I can still move it. But as soon as I leave authoring mode, notice like I can't even click on the balance scale. It is locked in place. It still functions when it has tiles on it, but you can't make any changes to the balance scale. Okay, now I want to add some dice. So let me go. Notice I turned authoring mode back on. I'm going to go to the tile tab and find the dice, which are under probability and data. And I'm going to do coins, dice, and spinners. So I'll copy this. I think I wanted a set of 3 and then 2. I'll copy that. I just used the C button on my keyboard to copy those. I could have copied the 6s. I don't know why. I went back and got another one from the tile menu. Let me center these a little bit. That looks great. Awesome. Now, what do I want students to do with the dice? I want them to roll them. Now, if I go out of authoring mode and go to preview here, when I click on a dice or on a set of dice, I have all these options that I don't want students to have access to in this activity. I could do roll, but we could tabulate. That's a chart of the numbers, which could be helpful in some other activities. I can group them together. We can copy, delete. In that activity that I showed, all of those were gone, and there was just a roll button. So let me show you how to do that. First, I'm just going to roll these all so they're all different numbers instead of 6s and 1s. Doesn't matter, but that just makes me a little bit happier here. Now I'm going to go into authoring mode. I'm going to select all the dice. I'm going to click on the 3 dots. And in this authoring section, remember there's 2 sections, authoring and action visibility. I'm going to talk about authoring for a bit and then get to action visibility. One of the options here is an action button. So I'm going to click this, and when I do, it's going to add a button onto the screen. So again, let me start over here. Let me delete this button just to show that one more time. I had to select all of the tiles I want this button to apply to. So it's all 6 of those dice. I go to the More Tools and I click Action Button. And I can move the button down here just so I have some room to edit this button. So now I have this button. I need to make a decision about what I want this button to do. Do I want it to show the dice? If I had them invisible, I could click Show. Do I want to hide them, which if I click it, it would hide the dice? Do I want to toggle back and forth between hidden and visible? Do I want them to flash on the screen for a few seconds? Or in this situation, do I want to randomize, which is like roll the dice? And randomize applies to the coins, dice, and the spinners. I want to do randomize here. Maybe I'll make this a little bit bigger. I can test the button inside of authoring mode. So let me see if this works. Yep, seems to do what I want. It rolls the dice. I can go to the button, and in authoring mode, I can see which tiles this button is attached to. So I click View Targets, and I see, yep, those are the ones the button is attached to. If I had multiple buttons on the canvas, it would be helpful to see that at times. Now, you might have noticed by the cursor here, I can change the text on the button. I actually want this to say roll, and maybe I'll make the button a little bit smaller. And now I can leave authoring mode, and notice when I click the button, that action bar doesn't appear anymore. All I can do is roll. So let me put the button where I want it. I think I had the button over here or something, so that looks good. I could go to preview mode, see how I'm feeling. Roll looks good. But notice I still have these actions available on the dice. And a student could move one, which I don't really want. So now I need to edit what happens on these dice. All right, let me go back here, turn on authoring mode. And now I'm going to select all of the dice and go to the More Tools menu. We saw how I set the scale to locked. So we can't do anything with the scale. For the dice, what I want to do with the dice is choose this option of cannot move or delete, which means what it says, students can't move the dice or delete the dice. So I'm going to choose this, cannot move or delete. I'll go out of authoring mode, and notice here when I'm trying to move the dice and I can't. So like I'm trying to click and drag and I can't. I'm hitting delete on my keyboard. It's not going away. I can still roll them. But what I don't want is that roll, tabulate, and copy to appear, right? So now I'm going to go back into authoring mode. And this is where I want to show this other section called action visibility. And this now controls what appears in the action bar. So on these dice, I don't want students to see the word roll. When I turn this off here, that doesn't prevent the dice from being rolled. This is preventing roll from showing up in the action bar. I'm going to turn off group and tabulate and delete and copy. I don't want anything to appear here in the action bar. So I'm going to turn all those off. Again, I can still see them here because I'm still in authoring mode, right? But when I leave authoring mode, notice when I click on these, I don't see any of those actions. And when I roll, nothing appears in the action bar. So this is functioning really well. I could go to preview mode. When I click and drag, I can't do anything to the balance scale. If I select the dice, I'm trying to click and drag them, I can't. All I can do is roll them. no button appears, feeling really nice. Okay, the final thing I have to add here are those number bars. So let me scroll over a little bit. I'm going to go into authoring mode so I can get these tiles available. I don't need probability and data. I wanted these number bars. So I would add a 1 and a 10 and a 2. Let me just do this quickly. A 2 and a 9 and a 3 and an 8. I think these were all the number bars I had available. The 4 and the 7 and the 5 and the 6. And as you may recall in this activity, I had these number bars set as like an infinite pile of them, right? All I could do was pull off copies. So here, that's another interactivity mode. So let me close action visibility and let me go into authoring here. And that option is called clone when moving. That's going to mean when I try to move the tile with a click and drag, I'm going to get a clone or a copy of that tile. So I'm going to set that to clone when moving, and then let me leave authoring mode. I'll go to preview, and we'll see here that now when I click on one of those tiles, nothing appears. But if I use the C button on my keyboard, or if I click and drag, I have a copy of that tile. Now, there's some nice features on our number bars. There's a slider which will change 10 to the number of factors. I could play the number bar to hear and see an animation. I can go into the more tools and decide if I want to see the labels or not, or if I want to change the sound that the music makes. But in this activity, we don't want any of those options on, right? All we want to do is try to balance the scale. So I'll go back into authoring mode. I will select all of the number bars, close authoring, close tile options, open action visibility, and think about what do I want to happen here? Well, I don't want the slider. I don't want students to merge them or play sound, music, tempo, show labels, note. I don't want anything. Now, there is a disable all button here that I could have done in the beginning of the activity that would have turned off everything, and then I would have had to check what I want to happen. So that would have been another way to approach this activity. But here I just turned all those off. Let me leave authoring mode, go to preview, and now you can see when I drag off those bars, nothing's available. I can rotate them. I could turn that off if I wanted to. I can delete that with the delete button on my keyboard. There we go. A few final things just to show in authoring mode. You can see here those tiles appear. I wanted that turned off. So what happened, because when I was in authoring mode, I went and I dragged out a number bar, that section got checked automatically. So either I could uncheck it, or I could just go here and make sure I've turned off show tile sidebar, and now that will not appear anymore. There we go. All right, a few final things just to point out. I showed you that I could rotate the number bar. If I don't want to do that, I could turn that off here. If I want to make sure that all of the music tools are off, I could turn that off. I want to keep on copy and paste because these tiles, I want to make copies of those tiles, and delete I want to leave on. So once you've done it, you can delete the ones that are there. Snapping together is nice in this activity. And play sound effects. When you roll the dice, there's a sound effect. I like hearing that sound effect. There's a grid selection panel that I don't need in this activity. I don't think students need to turn on a grid. And so I can leave authoring mode, go to preview, and see how this looks. Nice. Now I've set it here to an infinite canvas, so I can scroll, I can move around, I can zoom in and zoom out. I think the example that I showed had a fixed canvas, so the final thing I'll show in this video is how to set the canvas size. So I'm going to go into authoring mode. You can see it's an infinite canvas. I'm going to set it as a fixed canvas, which will start as a 15 by 15 square. It needs to be wider than that, right? So let's see how 30 looks, 30 by 15. Now, because I'm in authoring mode, I can select all of these tiles. So I'm going to do Command A to select all of them and sort of put them in the middle. 30 feels a bit wide. Let's go 24. That might feel a little bit better. And let me control the height. Let's see what a height of 10 feels like. Maybe go a little less, 8. I could go 8 And I don't know, I can make this a little bit. Let's go 22. There we go. How's 22 by 8? All right, that seems to fit nicely in there. I can leave authoring mode, go to preview, see how that feels. Yeah, roll the dice, and we could balance the scale. Let's just make sure this works. What do we have? 9, and 9 is 18, and 2 is 20. So I put a 20, and that should balance. I never checked the 10 on the balance scale. I don't like that they're overflowing the balance scale there. So really easy to fix. I just go into authoring mode. And because I'm in authoring mode, I have access to this handle. So I can make it a little bit bigger. Let me move the dice over so they're centered a bit. And now I can go out of authoring mode. I could check a 10. That feels better. Although if I was being really picky here, I don't like that when I try to center the 10, it snaps to one edge or the other. So I'm going to fix that one more time. I'm going to go to authoring mode, and I'm going to make this a little bit wider. So if I want to center the 10, it looks a little bit nicer. And maybe I'd make this a little bit wider, move the roll button over, move the balance scale over a little bit to give me a little more room. Obviously, I don't want the 10 here. Make sure the roll's not on the balance scale. Leave authoring mode. Preview this activity. Feeling pretty good. All right. I hope that was helpful. A really deep dive into authoring on Polypad. I've been doing it all inside of Activity Builder. These features work the exact same if you are authoring a Polypad outside of Activity Builder. But what's great here inside of Activity Builder, I can publish it. I now have this activity that I could assign to students. I could just pull it up in class and do a few rounds of this if I just want students talking to each other about it. So all sorts of ways to use authoring features on Polypad inside of Activity Builder or on Polypad outside of Activity Builder. Hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.